This project came about by spending a lot of time on the river. So every day the Sheepscot River would call to me and I just couldn't resist. I would go out in my kayak and just take these epic paddles which turned into floats, and I would just go out there and listen and be really intrigued and fascinated by the natural world. The river began to speak to me. I know it sounds funny, but I would come off the river and just feel this immense sense of well-being. And the river began to encourage me to share that sense of well-being and that experience of floating slowly on the river with other people.
This project is movement and experimentation and performance in landscape. It's sort of like a collaboration with each other and the elements, especially this year, the sunrise, the sunset, and the beach. Yeah, there's a lot of improvisation that happens, but there's also a lot of planning, but I think the planning is sort of like in the spirit of I like to think of as like creating conditions for emergence. So we don't know what's going to happen, but we give ourselves a framework that things can happen in. And there's also a lot of trust. So you being in front of the camera are trusting me behind it. And also all of us are trusting the rain and the seals and the sand. And when all of those things work together, which obviously they don't always, but sometimes you get like a little bit of magic, so yeah.
I feel that this work is an invitation to slow down, to connect with yourself, to potentially identify with the performers, with us in the video, and potentially open to this experience of the natural world and to inhabiting a body in space that I feel like in our contemporary world is really challenging. We're constantly pushed to externalize and to move quickly, and with this work and most of the work that I make, it's about slowing down and being present, attuning to what is and what comes forth through that slowing down.
And it's also about creating community that practices mindfulness or stillness together. I brought this up in a Zoom meeting the other day, but recently I came across this interview where Ram Dass was interviewing Thich Nhat Hanh. And it was more of a conversation. One thing they talked about was these communities all over the world that practice this sort of spiritual, sacred way of living mindfully. And I realized that that is what stillness is for me. But we just create it temporarily.
One of the challenges about the way we work together is the rigor of like the time we spend in these places. You know, we're getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning so that we can pack and like travel to the site and walk in and be there for the sunrise, you know. And then we're planning on, you know, being there all day, like whatever the weather is. And not only being there, but being there in a mindful way, like being there paying attention and like holding the whole space. And that's both, that kind of paying attention is both enlivening and exhausting you know?
And then everything was early this year, so it was probably. You're getting bit by the There were so many mosquitoes. Let me take a picture. Yes. You guys.
Different humans kind of digest and also perceive the world in such different ways. It's been really interesting to see how Robin interprets what's going on through a musical lens, how Luke interprets what's going on through this framing lens, how other members interpret what's going on through their actual physical body movement in the space. And that's a good reminder to me that we all carry different lenses in everyday life.
It's about reverence, it's about humility, it's about remembering awe, right? To be willing to be moved, to experience that state of awe, like to stand at the water's edge and really just kind of sit with like, oh, I'm a small body on a big planet, and there's a lot of things happening like around me, and I'm part of that.